Hey friend, today I want to show you how to thin radishes. This is like one of those tasks that is so hard. I actually read this quote, I forget who said it, was some famous gardener, and he said, a gardener should never have to thin their own plants. I think it's just like a moral dilemma, you know, because you planted them and then you have to pull them out, and it's like so sad. So today I'm going to show you how I resolve the moral dilemma of having to thin my plants by just replanting them. So it's kind of not necessarily the traditional way to do it, let's just put it that way. But I'm going to show you what I do in order to make the most of all the seeds I planted and hopefully get extra radishes out of the deal. So these are French breakfast radishes that are growing on the edge of my kitchen garden. These are botanical interests. I absolutely love this brand of seed, and I love this kind of radish. They're not too peppery or bitter, and they grow so well and so predictably well, which I think is so important if you're a new gardener or if you don't have, you know, a ton of time for the fails, which is my case. So I planted these directly by seed. They have great instructions, by the way, on the seed packages. So they tell you to space your seeds about 1 inch apart, which is awesome. That's not that far, right? And then these actually will emerge in 5 to 10 days, and they're usually ready to harvest within a month to 45 days. Which for me, being impatient, I don't know if you're like that, but it's just so fabulous to get to harvest something so fast. And the awesome part about growing your own radishes is you can eat the whole plant. So unlike, you know, when you get radishes from the store, the greens are all like gross and slimy, or they're not even there. Here on the plant, you get to eat the whole thing because you just pull it and then eat it. It's awesome. So let's talk about how to thin. So the little quick story here is I planted seeds, and then I got impatient and things weren't coming up as fast as I wanted them to. There's a weed. So I came back and planted again. And then the ones that I originally planted showed up, and then the ones that I planted the second time showed up. So I ended up with double the radishes, which I'm not complaining, but they might be complaining because they're not getting enough space to grow. So generally speaking, an inch is basically, you know, like thumb to forefinger. If you just kind of, I think, did y'all learn this in school? Like your eye is like an inch, something like that. So if you're kind of eyeballing it, then you're going to be, each plant needs to be about 1 inch from each other. That's the minimum. The minimum. And then you could go to 2 inches if you want to have larger radishes. So if I just go along this line here, you can see these are kind of, I've thinned them a couple times, to be honest, but you can see if I have this kind of as my rule, this 1 inch, I can come in and see, you know, whether or not each of these radishes has a full inch between them. And most of them do have that. So these two are pretty properly spaced. These two are okay, but you can see how it's kind of spindly there, and you can almost see how the radish is forming above the soil line. So this one I'm going to actually pull and replant because I can tell I'm not going to get a successful radish out of that. So I'm just going to lightly pull. I try to pull from the stem if I can, and if it won't come out, I'll pull the whole more from the root. So there's that. We're going to replant that in a second. I'm going to show you how we do this kind of along the line. So I'm going to keep going. You can see how these two are too close together. So I'm going to come in. It's kind of like detangling hair. And any root that's not, it doesn't look like it's forming under the soil, but it's forming above the soil. That usually means that there either wasn't good enough soil contact with the seed itself, or there wasn't enough space. You can see these two, they're definitely too close together. They're literally sharing the 1 inch together. So when it comes to these two, I'm going to choose which one I think looks healthiest. So this one seems to be more into the soil, so I'll pull this one up instead. And isn't it cool? You can already see the coloration of the radish. You can almost like, it's like future, right? You can see what that's going to become. So I just pull that out and basically try to get each one to about 1 inch between the plants. So I'll literally go through, and it is painstakingly tough, I'll have to say. So sometimes you'll thin one like this that's just too tiny probably to even do anything with. So this could be more like a microgreen. You can bring that inside and put that on a salad. But I will just kind of come in, pull each one that I can tell is growing too close to another one or just isn't getting proper contact with the soil and isn't deep enough. And then I'll be leaving the ones that seem like they have good contact with the soil and plenty of space. All right, so I'm just gonna go through, do a handful to show you. And then I try not to let these sit here for too long, and I'm gonna tell you why. So at this point, you could put these in the compost pile. You could take the greens just like a microgreen and eat them right there on the spot if you want to. No harm, no foul. Or you can do what I try to do, which is to replant. Now, replanting is a total gamble. Most professional gardeners would tell you not to do this. But I love to do it, and I usually have pretty good success. So I usually try to get this in the ground as quickly as possible. I'm gonna take a dibber and make a nice, generous hole because I don't wanna disturb the roots anymore. I've already kind of disturbed them pretty badly by pulling it up. And then I'm gonna bury this pretty deeply. So I know this is like a jungle in here. It's probably hard to see. But hopefully you can see how I just replanted that and I pushed it all the way down to the crown of the plant. So I'm gonna do a few of those so you can kind of get an idea. So right here, I'll do another one. See, I've got plenty of space. I know I have a full inch away from any other plant. And then I'm literally just gonna stick this right down and support it with some soil. So the great thing about this is you're taking a chance. You might get a new radish, you might not, but you know, it helps me deal with the drama of thinning plants, because for me, for years, I wouldn't thin my plants because I literally couldn't deal with the fact that I was pulling the plants I'd worked so hard to grow, that I was pulling them out of the ground. So worst case scenario, which is gonna give you a little bit of soil coverage as your other plants are growing in. But best case scenario, you'll end up saving these radishes and get way more out of your original sowing. So again, like I said, probably if you follow a lot of other gardeners, this might be, you know, totally against what they would say. But you know, to each his own. That's the beauty of gardening, right? You get to do it your way. So I'm gonna plant all of these in here. So I kind of end up with another row. The trick here too is like minimal root disturbance and getting those radishes replanted ASAP. So you would not want those to sit around and, you know, not be planted. Definitely, you're gonna have to do it like within seconds of thinning. So I'll do one more to show you, and then we're gonna harvest some of our first radishes, which is super exciting. Okay, let me see, I'm gonna kind of dig through here. And again, see how those are kind of curved? I don't know about y'all, but my first few years of growing radishes, that's all I would get. They would like form this bulb, but it was all above ground, so it would never turn into anything. And I realized it was usually because of bad soil contact at planting time, or that plant is just really reaching to get to the sunlight, and so it ends up pushing up. Now, immediately after you plant these, replant them, you've got to water them in. So I kind of drowned that one. And when you water it in, you're gonna be able to see, you know, how supported it is. Like you can see how some of these are sinking. So I know that I need to give them a little bit more soil support. So I'm just watering in, kind of soaking it. And then I'll watch these pretty closely over the next few days to see if they make it. If any of them don't, I will just come pull them up, or, you know, just let them sit here probably and give them a few days. But they do need water. You want to treat them like literally, you know, babies. Plants are plants. Plants are, I was gonna say plants are plants for a reason, but as you know, if you think about it, plants are meant to be planted. It's in their DNA to go in one place and never leave, right? Unlike animals that love to move, plants love to stay in one place. So anytime you move a plant, you know, especially at this young age, you gotta know, like, you're gonna have to really support it because it is very disturbed by the moving. Okay, now let's harvest our first few radishes. This is super exciting and it's awesome to do. You want to do it quite often, mostly because harvesting them means that you're going to get more, you're making more space. So here's the first radish of the season. Super exciting. Yay! Look at that beauty. Now French breakfast radishes can get a little bit bigger than this, but I actually really like them at this size because they're not too peppery and not too starchy. So there's one. Let's see if we can pull another one. All right, so let's do this one. Kind of separate out. So you want to be careful, you're only pulling that one radish at a time. And perfect. So put this one next to that one. And then I think we have room, I saw one more that looked pretty awesome. So you can see how the greens really kind of give you a clue as to how close the radish is to being harvested. You're getting good green growth here on these more mature radishes. See how I've got center growth and exterior growth? All right, let's see if I can make sure you see this. So the way I test it, right, is I can see the red popping up. That's how I know it's very close and ready to be harvested. So once your first radishes start to be ready, you really want to be harvesting every few days so that you're making space for new ones to finish up and grow as well. And then this is a great plant to succession seed. So I can come right in, honestly, right after, you know, harvesting, take a few extra seeds and pop them in, and I could be getting radishes. I could make a new row, you know, every 1 to 2 weeks, and I could be getting radishes from now into well into probably July here in the Chicago area. So my friends, that is how to thin your radishes so you get more and you don't have to deal with the moral dilemma of pulling up the plants that you worked so hard to plant. I hope this encourages you to experiment in the garden, to not always follow tradition, and to make your own way, because that's what makes gardening so much fun. All right, and don't forget, when you harvest these, you can eat the whole thing. So the greens can go in a salad or get sauteed, and the radishes can just get eaten right away. Thanks for watching, and if you want to learn more about setting up your own kitchen garden, we have all kinds of resources to help you. I wrote a whole book called Kitchen Garden Revival. You can find out about that below this video. And I have an entire course called Kitchen Garden Academy. It's an online course that teaches you the step-by-step to set up a full kitchen garden that will grow for you for many years to come. So check out those resources below this video. Subscribe if you want to know every time we drop a new one. Thanks for watching, and I'll see ya next time. Bye.